Alright, now's the time for heating your acrylic rod in the oven so that you can bend it on the jig. What you're going to want to do is take a cookie sheet, put a layer of parchment paper on it, and then put your rod on it, close the door, and crank up the heat to like 200 degrees. And leave it there for about 10 minutes. You're going to want to slowly raise the temperature in your oven, because if you heat that rod up too fast, it's going to start bubbling on the inside, and those bubbles will make their way to the surface of the rod, and it'll just make it downright ugly. When you get up to like 300 degrees, you're going to want to stay there and keep an eye on the rod itself, occasionally rolling it over so it doesn't get flat on one end under its own weight when it starts getting soft. When you get up to about 350 to 400, depending on your oven, just pick the rod up and just see if it'll bend under its own weight. If it starts bending very easily, then it's ready. Quickly move it from the oven onto the jig. Have the jig right next to the oven, ready to go. Now, I suggest using gloves, definitely. I have a pair of leather welding gloves that work great for protecting my hands from the heat. And that's pretty much it for the heating. Just stay tuned and you'll quickly see me moving the part from the oven to the jig and bending it. Alright, while the rod is heating up, you're going to want to get everything laid out that you're going to need when the time comes to take the rod from the oven and put it on the jig. I recommend you get some good gloves that can handle heat. These are an old pair of welding gloves that I have, and they work fine for me. I can reach into the oven, take the hot part out, and not really feel a lot of the heat. But just remember, once you take that rod out of the oven, you're going to have to work fast. That's why I say you need to have everything laid out. Okay. Alright, now the rod is pretty soft right now, so I'm going to try and shape it on the jig here. Like I said earlier, you got to be quick. If the rod starts cooling down before you get it in the proper shape, you can easily put it back in the oven, let it heat up for a little while, and try again. Here we go. Make sure the end with the starter hole is not here on the, you want the end with the starter hole down here, not up here. Now you see that went pretty quick, but you got to hold it. And another thing, this is one of the reasons why I did not drill the hole all the way to the proper length of like 2 inches. Because this acrylic rod is soft, and I'm having to hold it up against this stopper, the hole, if I had drilled all the way down, would collapse in on itself under the pressure of me holding it up against the stop. This way, once this thing is properly cooled, I can go in and drill it the rest of the way. Alright, the handle has had time to cool, and as you can see, it's a pretty decent shape. Now, there are going to be some flat spots on the handle. Right up here where it was butted up against the stop, on the inside of the handle where we bent it around the 3-inch lid. Our corner here is going to need to be filled in with some filler, and there's a flat spot here where we pressed pressed it against this stop here with our thumb. Now for filler, you can use JB Weld or Contour Putty. Contour Putty is put out by Testors. You can find them pretty much in any hobby store that has models. What I like to use is something called Green Putty. It's very fast drying. It's very sandable. In my opinion, this is what I would use. I got my tube of Green Putty from my local Hobbytown USA store. But for Testors Putty, you can get that at any, like I said, any hobby store. And JB Weld's pretty much available anywhere.